Welcome to Town Hall. I'm John Marler. May the Force be with us tonight as we preview the movie and ask, why is it worth camping out for in the rain? Tonight on Town Hall, short of watching the movie itself, you'll see more of the movie than you've ever seen it once. A Star Wars insider will show us a collection of memorabilia from the original movie. And before the end of this hour, I'll be flying in an X-Wing fighter. Now, we have an audience filled tonight with fans and collectors. You'll meet them in a moment. First, we begin with the latest trailer for the movie fans are so eagerly awaiting. The trailer for episode number 1. Who already has tickets for episode number 1? Did you camp out to get the tickets or just show up?
We arrived Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock, and we waited in line until we got our tickets for the 12:01 showing, first showing.
Why is that important to you?
Because Star Wars is our life. We've loved it ever since we were little. It's the best thing in the world.
You have your tickets already?
Yes, I do. I got there at Tuesday midnight, waited until about 1 o'clock Wednesday. It's Star Wars. I have to. I have to have my spot.
You could go down to the theater now and get tickets. So
that's what they're telling me. But you know,
why the camp out?
Because you experience other Star Wars fans. You know, there's games everywhere going on. People you have something in common with. It's an event. You know, it's like Woodstock almost for our generation.
Well, there's a lot of generations in this room. What is it that separates a Star Wars fan from the fan of anything else? Who can help me out with that?
Fanatical. I mean, Star Wars fans are absolutely fanatical. I mean, it's all over the web, it's all over TV, it's everywhere you look. I mean, I just think that it's just something that we grew up with. I mean, it's just an amazing thing that I think affected a lot of people, and I think that Star Wars fans are more fanatical than the average fan of anything else. I think that's the difference.
Back here.
It's also movies that have been able to last through the last 20 years, and now that this one's coming out, it's a whole new generation that's going to be experiencing a new kind of Star Wars, but at the same time, they're going to relive all the old ones that our parents lived through.
Why is it important to be one of the first to see the movie?
To be able to tell our kids that we were at the first showing of Star Wars, I really think that it's going to be something that will be in history, and that will really be something that we will really remember.
How many times have you seen the other Star Wars movies?
Oh, I can't even count. Thousands.
Literally thousands?
Yeah, seriously, honestly.
The first time I saw him
was when I was 7 years old, and that summer I watched him every single day.
Over here? How many times have you watched the others?
Same there. I couldn't probably not answer it, but in the hundreds, at least in the hundreds.
Others in the group, the same thing? Watching, back there if you would, Cynthia.
I've watched it, I don't know how many times, but I've watched it a lot.
Who's your favorite character?
In the new movie or the old movie?
Both.
Jar Jar Binks in the new one and Boba Fett in the old one.
The new movie isn't out yet, and he already has his favorite character. What is it about Star Wars? What is it that has everyone so excited?
Oh, there's so many different levels, and it's been talked about quite often. There's the soteriological myth, where you have the sense of redeeming a whole nation or a whole race or maybe a whole universe or planet. There's that kind of utopian element of the underdog, those that are good, that are the underdogs that somehow win anyway. And I think there's just a very hopeful message to it that a number of people have really enjoyed.
So the message is about to come out, the episode 1, the prequel. On opening day, how many will skip work, skip school? How many will be at the theater instead of being someplace else that they're supposed to be? Right back here, the gentleman in the episode, is that episode 1? The episode 1 shirt. Where are you supposed to be on opening day?
At work.
Are you the boss?
No.
Have you told the boss?
Yeah, I'm sitting next to the boss.
Oh, okay.
The boss will be there too.
Oh, well, then that works out real well. Why do you want to be there?
Well, my friend Pete and I, we were the first ones in line at the Westgate for Return of the Jedi when it came out. But see, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have tents, we had a card table and 2 chairs. I can't believe the stuff that they have today, waiting in line. But it was just fun. It's going back home again. And the nice thing about the Star Wars movies, unlike the Star Trek movies where they're just, the same crew again and again and again, this is one giant story that we're just getting a chapter at a time. It's serialized. I think that's part of the magic.
Anyone in advance, is anyone worried that they're going to be let down, that this is not going to be what you expect it to be? Let's ask the boss. Boss, you worried about that? You worried you're going to give him the day off for nothing?
Yeah, I mean, it can't be, I don't know if it can measure up to all the hype. Yeah, it's a little, I hope I won't be disappointed.
Others in the group who will be watching the movie instead of being at work or school. Right over there. Are you going to take a day off school?
Yeah.
And that's okay with Mom or Dad?
Yeah.
They're going to go with you?
Uh-huh.
Andy, help me out here. What's going on with this movie? Why the attraction?
Well, the attraction is that we have 3 generations of fans here. That's a perfect example. The parents took their kids 22 years ago. Then those kids have grown up. They have their own kids. This is the first film that has been expected for 22 years. The build-up for this is fantastic. No film in cinema history has this much build-up to it.
Let me tell our audience who you are. You are an author. You have written Star Wars, The Essential Guide to Characters. Mm-hmm. If anyone knows anything about the characters, it's you. There are new characters in episode 1. Right. Let's walk through those.
Okay.
Help us understand who they are. Darth Maul. Most talked about.
Darth Maul he's a Sith Lord that we're first seeing in this film, and one of the bad guys. You can kind of tell by looking. He has a great double-bladed lightsaber. I think he'll be the big hit character.
The Liam Neeson character. I can't even pronounce the name.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay.
He is the Jedi Master in this. He's Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Master.
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman is Queen Amidala. She's the Queen of Naboo, and that's the planet where a portion of the movie takes place.
Anakin Skywalker.
Well, we know who Anakin Skywalker grows up to be. Here's where he got his start.
Mace Windu. I hadn't heard that name before.
Mace Windu is the Samuel Jackson character. He's another Jedi Master, and George Lucas just recently said in an interview that he'll be seen again in the future movies.
Now, some of the old favorites are back. We see some of our favorites from the latter films, or the earlier ones, depending on how you want to look at it. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi in this one is played by Ewan McGregor, and he's playing a young Alec Guinness, the character that Alec Guinness played.
Yoda is back?
Yoda is back. He's actually here with us today. But
there are a few things here with us today, I've noticed.
He's got a touch of laryngitis, so he's not saying too much. He's communicating with the Force. But he's back, again voiced by Frank Oz from Muppets fame.
And our 2 favorite droids.
R2-D2 and C-3PO are back again, although C-3PO looks a little bit different. And we'll get to see sort of how he came to be.
Now, excuse my confusion, but I'm still trying to reconcile this episode 1 with the latter episodes and how all of this was put together. Were these characters, the new characters we're being introduced to, were they conceived way back when this whole Star Wars thing was dreamt up? Or are they an add-on after the other episodes?
I can't really speak to that because George has had lots of ideas, and I'm sure that the majority of these ideas have been around for longer than 22 years. Some of the characters have been mentioned in early drafts of the script that have been published and so forth. So I think, the fans are seeing some of the things that they've had hints of before.
What we're going to do now is give everyone a chance, not everyone, give 2 people a chance to ask Andy a quick question. Any question about a character, he's the expert. Who has a question? This young man right over here.
How'd they come up with Darth Maul?
Do you know the answer to that?
That one I don't know yet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Darth Maul's not in my book yet.
Anybody else with a question on the character? Yes, right back here. Go ahead.
I don't quite have a question on a character, but exactly when are you planning on getting out your 2nd edition of the character book so that we can all go out and buy it and know about these characters?
Well,
fair question.
I certainly hope that I'll get to write a 2nd volume of the Essential Guide to Characters. I think it'll need some updating, but they'll probably wait on that until the next 2 movies come out, I would think. And I did think of a slight answer to his Darth Maul question,
yes,
which is that George Lucas has talked about in his interviews that the visuals for Darth Maul, if you'll notice, his face almost looks like it's on fire with the red markings, and then he's got horns kind of like the devil, so that we could immediately identify this as a bad guy.
Yeah, he's not
right.
He's not working with the Force. Yes, one of the characters from episode number 1. The gentleman from Fred Meyer. Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you selling these guys? The Georges?
Yeah, sure. We're selling all of the Star Wars merchandise. In fact, it's becoming our leading area in the toy department. But not only in toys, we have food, we have domestics. There's plates to eat off of and glasses to drink of. You can dry yourself off from the shower with a Star Wars towel. Wear Star Wars shirts, wear Star Wars hats. So it's really big for our company and it's very, very exciting for all our stores to put up the shops that they've put up thus far.
Is this your friend?
This is my friend. This happens to be a mask that will be coming out a little bit later in the year of Jar Jar Binks. And this is a spectacular looking product that's made by a particular supplier. And his Darth Maul mask and some of the other characters are absolutely really realistic looking.
Can we get you to model that for us?
Oh, absolutely. I've been waiting for this.
All right. Now, seriously, what is Fred Meyer selling? What are the biggest selling items so far in advance of the movie?
Action figures.
The action figures.
Absolutely.
I love the look. We have collectors in the crowd. Who in the crowd has a large collection? Who has 50 items of Star Wars memorabilia? Okay, keep the hands up. 50 items. Who has 100? Drop your hands if you have less than 100. So you have 100 or more items. Who has a room full? Okay, let's see some things. Who brought some items? Let's start right back here. What do you have?
All right, I brought this. This is an interactive bank. Can you see this okay? I'll push the button so you can see what it does.
I think we get it. We're beginning to understand how it works. Young lady, could I get you to stand up? Could you tell me who you are?
Francesca,
Who are you dressed like?
Princess Leia.
Have you seen the movie? How many times?
Twice.
And you like Princess Leia? Do you have other Star Wars items at home? Like what?
Princess Leia.
A lot of Princess Leia. Other collectors, who can show us some of the items they have in their personal collection right over there? That'd be great. Please stand up.
I got a Darth Maul, and it's from the episode 1. I'm probably sure all of you, or probably quite a few of you, have one of these, maybe, but, well...
One of our experts, does anybody know, are those worth anything besides the actual retail cost?
They're right
over here.
Darth Maul is the hottest Episode 1 figure available now, and it is selling above its regular retail price on the secondary market.
How about some of the items from the previous movies? Are these investment items, or are these just things that we collect because we like Star Wars?
No, they can be investment items, and depending on what figure you get, they can reach up to hundreds of dollars, especially from the original movies, and that's correct.
I heard back here thousands on some. What can I get $1,000 for?
I have a few pieces over here that are about the value of a small automobile.
What would be a valuable one?
Well, should we take a shot at some stuff over here?
Sure, they'll grab a shot. Just tell me about it.
Okay, well, one of them's an Anakin Skywalker figure that was not available in the U.S. market, only in Australia, years after they quit selling the U.S. market Star Wars stuff in about 1985. And strangest place, one person brought it into my store. The reason why I have so much stuff, you asked who has the most stuff. Well, I got so much stuff that I had to open a store.
How many items do you think you have total?
It's just
take a guess.
Atticfuls, you know.
Thousands?
Yes.
Thousands
Easily.
Others
just
who
on
have
action figures alone, you know.
Others who have items, right back here.
You have a Jeremy Bullock autographed Boba Fett from the original movies. They have from Whiz Bang Comics in Florida, from the originals.
Worth something?
Probably about 45 to 65.
Andy, you have an item here with you. Tell me the story behind Yoda.
Oh, this is a life-size Yoda. It's sculpted based on the actual original prop from The Empire Strikes Back. And I was at Lucasfilm's ranch and saw the actual Yoda puppet, and this actually looks a little bit better because it hasn't been used. You know, the puppet's a little bit beat up.
You are not only the writer of the guide to the characters, you possess a lot of items.
A lot of items.
You are a
yeah.
big-time collector. Yeah. Andy, let us take a look at his collection, and right now, let's let you take a look.
In my Star Wars collection, I have everything that has ever been published in the United States, and a lot of things that haven't. The publications, I have just about everything. And I have several hundred action figures and dozens of spaceships. This is Han Solo in carbonite as seen in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which was Harrison Ford put into the carbonite chamber by Darth Vader and Boba Fett. And this is an exact reproduction made from the molds they used in the film. However, this is a prototype of the reproduction, and it is signed down below by the artist. Only 3 of these exist. Did I know Star Wars was going to be this holy grail for me? Probably not in terms of collecting, but at the time Star Wars was one of the first collectibles that came out with action figures. They were affordably priced as opposed to the higher priced G.I. Joes or things like that. So I was able to buy lots of them, and with lots of them you could have lots of adventures and explore your imagination and so forth. This is my pride and joy. This is my life-size Boba Fett, and it's on a mannequin that is cast from the actor. Boba Fett is the bounty hunter who captured Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back. This is exactly complete as it is in the film, and right down to the armor, and I even got his symbol tattooed on my arm.
Okay, Andy. Couple of questions. The carbonite cast. How did you come across that? How did you get that?
That was one of the companies I was working for. I've written a lot of the licensed material. If you buy Star Wars items, specifically from the first trilogy, a lot of the items I wrote the text that you would read on the packaging or things like that. So for the Han Solo and carbonite, they needed an article written about how the original was created, how they made the replicas and so forth. And so I wrote a big article and a certificate of authenticity. And that was my fee, was I asked for one of those.
Little bartering.
Yeah.
Going on
yeah.
and then the mannequin, the Boba Fett.
The Boba Fett was somewhat along the same lines. The company that made the Jar Jar Binks mask we saw a minute ago needed a catalog written, so I did an 8-page catalog for them and wrote all the text and laid it out and so forth. And that was my fee for that, was I wanted the Boba Fett.
Are all writers of things that have to do with Star Wars collectors? Are you a collector?
Nope.
Just the writer?
I have lots of books.
You have lots of books? You have award-winning
Mostly
books,
mine.
best-selling books? What is it about the fascination with collection as a writer of Star Wars who looks around this room and sees people with some phenomenal amount of items? Can you help us understand why they're doing this?
I think they enjoy the universe and they just like to be connected to it. It's a way to get in touch with it. It's one of those things that it's a real simple story. It's good guys versus bad guys. There's not a lot of ambiguity in Star Wars. And as a result, people really enjoy it. They feel uplifted by it, and they want to be connected to it. And here are all these toys out there. And George Lucas, of course, was brilliant in bringing these things out with the movies. So as a result, there's all this stuff out there. And nobody really knew it was going to be collectible when it first came out. And then, of course, it did.
Which leads to the question, and just ask one of our collectors, are you doing this for the fun, to have something to pass on to your kids because someday you're going to get rich, because everybody's going to want it and you're going to have the best collection? One of our collectors, right back here. Well, you're in the business. I know what you're in. I know the answer to that one. Yeah.
Star Wars, the reason why we collect it, Star Wars was the first movie that said space can be fun. It wasn't 2001. It wasn't the Apollo missions. It was space is a wild adventure, and that is why it has the attraction that it has.
It's like owning a piece of the movie. It's a three-dimensional form that represents, the experience of the movie itself. And I do hate to sell Star Wars stuff in my store because I want to keep it all. It's tough.
There we go again, talking about, okay, how do they do the special effects? When the original Star Wars movie came out, this is how they did special effects. They would take a scale model, they would add a star-filled background and some sound effects, and faster than you could say lightsaber, you had an action sequence, or our attempt at an action sequence. For a look at today's state-of-the-art special effects, we went to Portland's Downstream Post-Production House. We went to Downstream, a Portland production company which specializes in creating the same type of eye-popping visuals you'll see in Star Wars Episode 1.
Anything you can imagine, we can make it happen.
With Mike Quinn at the computer controls, we came up with a simple example of how videotape, 3D graphics, and computer backgrounds can be mixed and manipulated. Here's the finished product, the Channel 2 helicopters flying in formation with an X-Wing fighter from the original Star Wars movie, and me in the cockpit. So how did they do that? It starts with a computer model that Mike found on the internet.
And then if we want to fill it in with a color, turn the wireframe off and we've got it filled in with a white color. We can turn shading on and now we have a white looking model.
Next comes lighting.
And we can move this around and we can add multiple lights if need be.
A computer-aided paint job makes it look even better.
I had one of our guys in the art department whip up a little texture that looks kind of like an X-Wing fighter. With this compositing technology, now we can go in and kind of place this in the scene.
Finally, Mike mimics the movement of the helicopters by locking onto them with a tractor beam.
Now this tracker is the same technology used by the cruise missiles and whatnot to find their targets. We'll use it for more friendly means.
Now that the X-Wing is flying next to our Power of 2 helicopters, they need to put me in the cockpit. We shot this picture in the studio in front of a plain blue wall.
It's pretty simple to just remove the blue. We'll add him to the scene. And now we'll need to just scale John down.
Add some glass for the cockpit, a fake reflection of clouds, and we're off. So that's it. He cut me down to size, and off we were flying. Mike, thank you very much. What a beautiful job. A lot of time went into that, and that was all of what, 8, 9, 10 seconds. Give us some sense of what it takes to put together special effects in the movie, if it took that much just to do me flying a X-Wing.
Well, it all depends on what you're going to be utilizing. There, they were using a lot of computer graphics. Then, of course, there's things like possibly the blue screen or chroma key. That was done with the little X-Wing that was flying through with the star background, and that's fairly easy stuff. Then you get to the more complex stuff like animatronics and whatnot. That sort of stuff gets to be quite time-consuming, and that's where you can make the characters move, but they're not necessarily using that in this movie, from what I understand. Most of the characters are all computer animated, sort of like in the Jurassic Park sense. So it's taking not weeks, but months and months to put some of this together. When you go see the movie, for those of you who have tickets and those of you who plan to see the movie, and I assume that's everyone in the room, are you going to see the special effects, or are you going to see the story of good versus evil? Who would tackle that right behind you there, Cynthia?
Actually, for me, the special effects is a downside. I don't really like the cartoon look of the characters. I think the original looked more real. I'm going for the plot and for the fact that it's Star Wars.
Anyone in defense of special effects? Anyone who wants to see the movie for that reason?
I want to see the explosions and things going fast.
Anyone else want to get in on this topic of the effects? Yes.
I'm into computers and I'm interested in the robotics, so I think this is all quite interesting.
So you will judge the movie, do you think, not so much on plot, but perhaps on the effects?
Technical effects, yes.
The technology. Do you have any anticipation that this movie has to be, must be, different than the ones that came before it?
Robotics in general.
Just that in general.
Right.
Yes, sir. If you would stand up, please, for us.
I think I'm kind of going to see it to see the plot so I can get more of the storyline for Star Wars, because I read some of the books and stuff, but I also want to see the special effects so I can really get good detail and be able to see the stuff fast and really get more out of the movie.
Andy, you're shaking your head. Steve, you're reacting to that?
Yeah. Speaking for the writers in the group, I'm Steve Perry. I wrote Shadows of the Empire. There are several of us here who have written for the Star Wars books and comics lines. And, of course, we're all in favor of plot. Plot and characterization are very important. Some people don't seem to think so, but it's much more interesting to enjoy the people and the story that they're going through simply looking at things blowing up on screen.
Do you ever worry that your story might be overridden, though, by the effects, that somehow
Not my story.
I've got to say, despite the Newsweek review, Newsweek gave it, a somewhat negative review and said it didn't have a lot of story. I thought it was actually very complex. There's a lot of political maneuvering that you really have to pay attention to. And the special effects, for those who do care about that, are stunning. There's stuff in there that's never been seen on screen this good ever.
We have effectively set the stage for what's coming up next. We have with us tonight some gentlemen who write Star Wars material. Steve, let me start with you. You didn't come up with the idea in the first place. How do you end up writing it?
Oh, I got asked.
That helps.
Yes, it does. I had written a book for Bantam Books, and they had the license for Star Wars at the time. And I did a favor for the editor, and he said, well, I owe you one. So what he gave me was a shot at doing Shadows of the Empire.
And where do you start? Does someone say to you, look, here are your characters?
Well, in this case, we have what they call in Hollywood a springboard, which is a very short piece of what direction they'd like to go in. They wanted to do something about the dark side of the Empire. And I said, as opposed to what, the bright, shiny side of the Empire? I mean, it's already evil. What they did was they flew me down to Skywalker Ranch, and I sat at a table with a bunch of people who were creative from the comic books and from the toys and from the games, and we hammered out a plot. I went home, wrote a big fat outline, and then sent it in. And after it was approved, that became the basis for the comic books and the novel. And in my case, we did everything but the movie.
Do you have to conform to very strict Star Wars standards?
Well, yes and no. You have to honor the characters. You don't necessarily have to toe the line to the extent that you can't come up with something new, because all the writers do come up with new things. Most of the time, you're allowed a lot of leeway as long as you stay within bounds.
KW, when you write, do you think in the back of your mind, what would George Lucas say about this, think about this?
Well, that's always going to be a consideration. It's sort of his ball and bat and his train set that you've been invited to play with. But at the same time, they make a very strong effort at Lucasfilm to bring in people who are going to bring something of their own into the universe. Filmmaking is naturally a collaborative effort, and consequently that attitude, I'm very sure, extends to everything else that is associated with the Star Wars universe. They want other people's talents, other people's gifts, other people's story and character creation ability to be part of that. And so it's not that you're just filling in the blanks of an outline provided by George Lucas, but Lucas as a creator has, a whole hierarchy below him, and all of those people are expecting and really counting on you to bring in something new that they haven't thought about.
Do you sit down and talk with George Lucas?
Oh, no. I've only had email from some of his lieutenants. But they are very intelligent and creative people themselves. And there are standards you have to come up to. But that's why they asked people like Steve and myself in the first place, because they thought they had seen our other books, and they had a notion that we could be the additional talent that they wanted for these products.
Steve, have you had a sit-down with George Lucas?
No.
Ever met the man?
Over the phone once. I have an autographed book.
That's
it's my book. I wrote it, but he autographed it for me.
A lot better than I have. I like the concept. What does a writer add?
The writer is responsible for building the characters, giving them in the form of comic books or novels, putting words to them that people are going to see the original characters resonating in those words or in those images. The characters are already familiar to us, but we have to put them into new situations that ring true to the original formula, that original feeling of Star Wars.
Do you run the risk of changing what the original designer had in mind?
That happens. We're never going to please everybody, and everybody has their own ideas about what the original characters are and what they were, and we just try to do our best, but every once in a while something happens that the fans will get a little excited about, a little angry about.
Well, the fans do get a little excited. I don't know about angry all the time, but they do get excited about it. Let's ask one of our experts, what is with this? We started the program by kind of saying, why are people so in touch and excited about Star Wars? What does this represent to us?
I think one of the things that makes Star Wars really work is that it kind of uses these mythic archetypes that everybody resonates with. You have the young boy on a quest, and you have his mentor who helps him partially fulfill that quest. And so I think that's really what drives it, and people are able to identify then with that protagonist, that we identify with young Luke Skywalker, and we go through his adventure, and we're hoping for the same kind of spiritual awakening that he has.
We have waited so many years for the prequel. Are we likely to, years from now, be talking about the prequel like we now talk about the other movies?
I think it's very possible, just because in the way that we still talk about Homer's Iliad, I'm going to actually class it in that area, or romance epics like the Arthurian Round Table, because it has that kind of quality. Not only the mythic archetypes, but I think it plays into a lot of the ideas of knighthood that have been adventurous stories for both male and female, by the way, that have been playing out for a long time. So I think it could really last.
Is this a story that needs to keep going, that has, if you will, has no end? Is this something that for those of us who are fans that we don't want the ultimate conclusion and maybe don't even want the ultimate beginning?
I think Lucas has created a world that can never stop growing, or you can never stop writing stories for it. His story, his vision will end, I think, with these three that he's putting out now, but there's so much to it that anybody could write a story in it. So in a sense, that world will live on forever. His vision will be added with our own visions.
Steve, can you keep writing Star Wars stories forever?
Oh, sure. I'm waiting for the phone to ring any moment. No, it is an open-ended universe. The struggle of good and evil always goes on, and always will, as long as there are people around. So certainly with the characters he's created, he can branch off in both directions and go as far as he wants to go.
How important is it to create new characters?
Well, one of the things that my book, The Essential Guide to Characters, shows is that each of these characters has been developed fully through the novels and the comic books and the children's books and a couple of animated series that were on for a while. They've all been developed further beyond just what you saw in the films. And they've been extended. Han Solo and Princess Leia got married and they have kids. And you can continue on with the adventures ad infinitum with these characters because they've been so expanded upon.
The Force is with us tonight on Town Hall. We've been surfing the web. We found what we think are three of the best Star Wars sites in cyberspace. First, there is JediNet.com. That's where you'll find information about the movie, its trailers, frequently asked questions, and plenty of pictures. In addition, there's a countdown clock for fans who are counting the seconds until the film opens. Another hot site is theforce.net. Star Wars trivia fans will love this site. It is packed with questions about the original trilogy. Plus, there's a section where false rumors are dispelled, sorting Phantom Menace fact from fiction. And finally, the mother of all Star Wars sites, StarWars.com. This is the official Lucasfilm site. It has behind-the-scenes notes, information about ticket sales, and details about the cast and the crew. You can find all those websites at one place. Point your browser to katu.com for hot links to all three sites. Now, in our web poll, we are asking about the Phantom Menace. Is it hype or happening? The results so far, 60% saying hype, 40% saying happening. From our Town Hall Cafe, Guy wrote, one of the primary factors that makes a movie enjoyable is the element of the unknown. There is no getting around the fact that too much hype will always take away from the initial viewing experience. There is a lot of hype. What's in your hands right there?
Right here I have the comic book adaptation in graphic novel format from Dark Horse Comics of The Phantom Menace, and it has just reached the New York Times bestsellers list.
A movie's not even out. The hype is at work. Andy, you have authored a comic book. Fans selected it the best of the Star Wars comic books. Will there be more comic book hype coming from you?
I certainly hope to work on more comics and more books, but that's up to the powers that be.
We've had a few people in the room who have seen the movie. We have with us a movie critic. You have sat quietly throughout this hour. You have seen the movie. I don't want you to give it away.
Okay.
Don't want you to spoil it for anyone who's going to see it. but I want to know, what did you think?
Well, I feel awful because I feel like the resident curmudgeon here about the whole Star Wars trilogy anyway, because actually I think, the Star Wars trilogy is really enjoyable. It's basically a space western, and, when it did come out in the 80s, there are some negative things that happened when this movie became the beginning of the blockbuster, the end of the golden age of cinema, which was the 70s, I believe, the end of filmmakers like William Friedkin making great movies, Hollywood allowing them to, independent films sort of died, and money was more of, the main operative in making films.
I'm less than a minute. You got to get to the Phantom Menace.
Okay. I was disappointed by it. I thought that it was very talky, which I thought would be a good thing, but it wasn't, because the script wasn't very good. And the
Did you like the special effects?
The special effects were impressive, and Ewan McGregor was excellent. He was the one character that looked like he had really studied the saga, and he had Alec Guinness's mannerisms, voice, everything down perfectly. And I hope that he's the glue that holds it all together, just like Han Solo was.
So you liked it a little bit?
I did enjoy it. I was disappointed by it. It did feel sort of like a novelization that you sort of stumble into just sort of to get ready for the next installment. It felt sort of like a prologue that wasn't written very well.
Andy, we're out of time. Any other opinion on the movie?
I loved it.
See, now you can go watch it yourself and find out. Here's what you'll see. What'd you expect him to say? Here's what you'll see next week on Town Hall.